friends and masters. Very good morning, good afternoon, and a wonderful evening from all around the world. What I love the most about the meditation magic is that it's early in the morning, and I thought it was so beautiful to have this intention and it is true. Meditation is magic. And every day there's a different miracle that we unfold by connecting to really who we are. And I thought, we are all here for betterment, right? I mean, when I belong to Satya Sai organization here in St. Louis, that's where I grew up, in India, in Sai Fold, and met different masters as evolving. And one of the masters, here in the West, showed me this dollar note and said, all of you coming from overseas, you are here for this, correct? And I thought, having somebody speaker, you expect all these spiritual talks. And this is when I was new to the fold and new in the West in 90s. And, we said, yes, we are here for growth, for improvement, for learning, correct? So he said, I pray that if at all I get a human birth, again in the next lifetime, I pray that I am born in India, because even though I use translators, even though I use, the books that I was transformed into English and translated, I still don't get the essence of it. And I just thought, sometimes we take things for granted, correct? And grass is always greener on the other side. So, but it didn't, how they say as you evolved every day, everything kind of has different meaning and different connotation and brings different, deeper meaning depending on where you are in your journey. And I thought, we hear these words very loosely, right? Abundance. And then when I came across, so this talk today is coined by Dr. Deepak Chopra, who's one of my favorite authors, because I think he integrates a lot of his experience and knowledge to the medical field, which I belong to. So I think that resonates. How integrative medicine is the way to go, which we had Ayurvedas, right? And yoga for body, mind, and spirit. And little did I know when I joined yoga, I didn't really join to become an instructor. I just joined because of personal transformation and personal things that I was looking for. And in yoga, the asanas stayed away. I thought I was going to lose some weight and do all of it. But then the Patanjali Sutras really took over my life. And then I met Buddha's CEO, and that's when the daily meditation becomes a way of life. So I thought, when I started experiencing the true abundance of who we are, that is such an inner state. So I thought I would, do his book. If anybody's interested, do read. It's called Abundance. So it's coined on that, and I thought it'll be a nice way to share some master's wisdom with my own experience with it. We all, being a meditation community, we have understood the importance of gratitude and connecting to the true wealth, the opportunities. Once you're in that field, in that abundance, the quantum field that we call it, spiritual scientific way, that we called Brahman in the East philosophy. It already is within you, correct? I kind of, this is like almost like a 1 day workshop, but to make it easier, keeping our time in mind, I will kind of condense it the best possible. So the wealth within, we practically we can talk about a lot of philosophy, but when it comes down to money, it does um, take care of your basics, right? So that's when we change our relationship with money, seeing money as a scarce, like, how they say, we do all these affirmation that, I am this and I am that. But again, it's more important of as you think, as you feel, so we manifest. We've learned about, I'm sure I have not joined you before, but I heard, because law of attraction and manifestation is pretty close to my heart because being a Jain, we always believed in non-violence, non-attachment, not, I never thought that I could ask for some things and I could do things. So that's what kind of I started realizing that, wow, I didn't realize my thoughts were this powerful. And but I just heard that you have a great master coming next week. So I thought this would help you because once you correct your relationship with whatever abundance you're looking for, and the following next week when you're going to do manifestation, it would kind of go help and help. So once we realize that instead of seeing it as scarce resource, once we realize it's just an energy. And once you start thinking in terms of energy, vibration, frequency, then you just realize that it's just a flow. You know, it's just an energy that you bring into the world, and that's where your life is guided pretty much, right? You go where your job is, you go where your partner's job is. That's what we teach our children also, right? You go to school, make sure you get a job where you make enough income, right? Income, we call it. Um, and now, the more you are aware, once we become aware of why we are doing what we are doing. One time we're teaching detachment, and then one time we are saying attachment to the money, right? So our consciousness is always confused. Where are you going? Are you guys really wanting to have attachment or you have the detachment? Once you understand as an energy and it's a constant flow, then there's nothing to attach to, nothing to detach to, right? That's why we have that circle of life where everything is just flowing, right? You don't get into why the circle of life is, we don't say square of life or the triangle of life. Because in triangle, you don't flow. In square, you don't flow. But in circle of life, you're flowing. Cycle of seasons, 21-day cycle, the weather, everything is in cycle, which means ever changing, correct? Uh, so it is important to understand, when you're talking about success and wealth, um, it is, that obsessive attachment of the outcome, and we truly surrender and trust that whatever experience you plan to have in life, it's definitely going to happen because you've already thought about it. You've already given your wishes, you know, to that, which is, you may call it whatever you believe in, your Shiva, your Krishna, your Jesus, Muhammad, whoever, whatever name and form you want to give. But when you surrender and when you've given your wishes, it for sure is going to manifest. Once we understand the science about field of infinite possibilities, and I think we talk a lot about once you realize the power of your thoughts, what really happens. And those of you who have attended our 40 days program, it talks a lot in detail about it. Um, so why we focus on generosity. Abundance truly grows through giving. When you give freely, whether it's time, resources, energy, you open yourself to receiving more. That's why what I learned from my mentor is that, gratitude is the highest seat of receivership. Because when you are in gratitude, when you are that, you're connected to that infinite wealth of whatever it may be, so it'll flow of wealth and prosperity in your life. Trust that. The only thing is, what happens is sometimes they say, right, in Shirdi Baba's time, it said, Shraddha Saburi, which means first you have a faith. When you have faith, whatever belief system you have, when you have faith, that is when you surrender. And when you have patience, then you wait for the right timing because everything has its right time. But what happens in today's world, we put the seeds today and we want the fruit in next few months. It has to become a sapling, then it has to become a tree, then it has to grow into buds, then the fruit has to grow, then even though the fruit is not ripened with full energy that it needs, and it's not gone on the ground for it to be consumed, then the results will be such, right? That is why we're all eating low energy food, especially who are here in the West, because it's all plucked much earlier, right? So, why I'm talking about it? Because it's as simple as that. We can learn so much from the nature. Same as with the wealth. So once we know that everything that you have asked for or you have wished for and you have worked for is coming to you in the right timing. So that's why they say you trust the universe's timing. You will learn these also in law of manifestations. So once we develop that prosperity consciousness that I am that, once we focus from the lack, like for example, you say, I am wealthy. I say I am wealthy, wise, happy. There's a mantra that I do whenever I do my meditation that I'm happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yes, I am, because I am that consciousness, right? But again, when you say, and if you don't feel that, when I'm writing my bills and I say, oh my goodness, my bank account only has so much. So then what am I saying? I'm contradicting my consciousness, which I'm saying I'm feeling the lack, right? That, oh, I have to wait for my next paycheck, if I want to make this or want to do this. So we are saying something else, we are feeling something else. And what we feel is what we manifest. Because the universe doesn't have language. Language is for we human beings. Universe will resonate with the frequency and the consciousness we are in. And to raise our frequency, this is when we do the group meditation and realize that we are that energy. So whatever we want, we just tune into it. And I thought when I learned that concept and I started experimenting, and I thought, oh, that was so beautiful. Once you are that, which means we drop this body consciousness, then we are more closer and aligned to who really we are. That's when we talk about energy chakras and how it needs balance. Whenever it's out of balance, that's when mentally, physically, all of this that we're experiencing, it's all psychosomatic, right? All the diseases, mental illness, physical illness. So that is when we do, I didn't want to yet wanted to wait, yoga and meditation. So when we say yoga, we always think of asanas, but truly yoga is a union. Union of what? Depending on what you're doing. So if you're doing meditation, you really what you start with being one with your breath. Once you're one with your breath, your mind calms down. You drop the body consciousness. At least that is our goal, right? The more all of you, I'm sure Divya ma'am and all of you masters who have been meditating every day, you realize that if nothing happens, you're really just happy. You sleep better, nothing really bothers you, you feel more grounded. Those are the basic things you'll hear from people who are new to the path. Why? Because their energy beings or energy centers, in a science world, I don't even like to call it chakras. I like to say, energy centers. So all your energy centers are being aligned. And once you are aligned within yourselves, automatically you're connected to a different consciousness, right? Depending on how far you go with it. And what I realized is, we have aspirations, we have goals, but the true intention of who really, if you're really looking for abundance, better health, better wealth, better mental peace, correct? We all want the same thing. We're all doing this for an emotional payoff, correct? Our children go to better school, everybody has better health, we stay in unity, we give with all our hearts. So what is all that? That is all is when does it come? When you're true to your source, you've calmed down all your anger, all your vices that we call it, right? Which comes from our Panchabhuta Sharira and our karmic attachments, what we have come here to learn, all the lessons, of letting go, of jealousy, of hatred, anything that we haven't ended in love, we're going to keep repeating, right? We say that. Why? Because when we are in love, we are that. That is who really we are. So until you don't realize or be self aware of who really you are, we're going to keep repeating everything. And I realize the more you meditate, more you will realize, all this mud that we are cleaning. So once you live with that intentions, abundance comes automatically. Let whatever our desires are there be aligned with our higher self, and that's another thing is the more authentic you are. Today's world, we can have chat GPT type whatever we wanted to type, and I could become an eloquent speaker. We have all these tools which will pop up. You can read, no one's gonna know. But are you authentic? Is that something that's coming for the consciousness that you really are? That is the question we need to ask. If yes, for sure, if you need in the beginning, why not? You use that. But that also, that change, that being yourself, because once you surrender everything, when you connect to your higher mind, it'll be better than whatever this body can do because this body is only 0.001%. So now we have to make that choice. Do we want to work for money from this 0.001%? Or we rather use the 99.999% that we really are? Once we understand that basic in science, everything will happen automatically. Because you no more have to struggle, you no more have to be in competition, you no more, you realize that the more you give, because that is who really you are, the more everything will flourish. That is why, my friends, they say Sajjan Sangatya, having the true knowledge, having the stage where you meet with each other, connect with each other, clear the mud together, and then, rise together as a group consciousness. So that's one of the reason I love whenever I get invited or any chance that I have a group meditation, I make sure that I make the most of it. So I'm truly honored for today's, invitation to be here. And once we realize this, automatically when we start balancing that how important this money, the material wealth, along with spiritual wealth, they all go hand in hand. It's true. It's truly a balance where you are feeling successful in whatever career you're doing, whether you're a housewife, whether you are an accountant, or whether you're a waiter, or whether you are a cleaner. We're all interdependent being and realizing that Like when COVID happened, right? Our CEO of the hospital would come down on the floors, and all the people who are cleaning would come and appreciate and say, thank you. Because you're keeping this place clean, we can do what we can do. That is when our patients are getting healed. So, what does it say? If it wasn't for those cleaners, none of the things that the doctors, nurses want to do, they can do. So, that itself shows, right, that how we are interdependent beings on everything. The reason I'd like to talk about the basic things because it's, again, it sounds like a philosophy, but once you connect to the normal daily experiences of our lives, it kind of, will sink in more. It'll stay with you more. So when I heard about that yoga of money, and I never thought that there's like this term also there. And it's a great, once you're in that yoga, meaning the union of who really you are with whatever you believe. So I am not this body, I am that, you know. Uh, so once you are in that union, when I say yoga, that's what I mean. It's a greatest way to handle money. I think we still have about 6 to 7 minutes before we start meditation. So I will try to make it as quick as possible.
No worries, ma'am. You can take your time. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to make sure I keep that. So I thought, giving money its value to use it the right success and happiness. It is surprising when you claim, that Indian spirituality, as I talked, when we talked about yoga and gurus, we always have this typical image of somebody with a white beard and wearing a orange robe somewhere out in Himalayas. But as we know, last few years, everything has evolved where, you all are true yogis. Look what you're doing at this time, learning how you can expand your consciousness, how you can spread this magic of meditation to everyone. Right. So, not in a religious sense, but it's truly a science of consciousness. And I thought that was so beautiful to understand. That once you understand how consciousness behaves, something amazing, magical happens, that change within. And that's what people don't know that they're experiencing that change within. That's something internal. Your programming is being reprogrammed without you knowing. You know, you might be, that's when we talked about, like for example, you learn physics, you learn geography, you learn chat GPT, you learn whatever field you're in, you learn pharmacy. Uh, it's not changing you. You're just gaining more knowledge. You're learning how to do things. But when you do meditation, really what happens is something's changing, it's transforming you. That is the difference. And that is the personal transformation that happens with yoga. So there's an immediate connection that you see with money. I'm trying to think how best I can say this will manifest as like infinite abundance, infinite possibilities, eternal love. You feel one with all. You in Christianity they say mercy and grace and loving kindness, unlimited creativity. You're never stuck. There's always something that you can figure out, we say, right? So suddenly you go from the fixed mindset to creative mindset, boundless giving, because there is no giving truly, because you are one with that. So you're just not even sharing, you're really using it when you feel that. So you become that abundance. You are that, you know. So these gifts are innate. That really is the nature of the soul consciousness, right? And when being a human, you become aware of that, that's when you express it because you realize you don't have to do anything. That is just what you are. That's why we call emptiness meditation, where you just emptying everything that is not needed. And then you are that. You don't have to no more struggle or anything. You know, um, You may not, I don't know how much you all are musically inclined, but did a little bit of Bharatanatyam growing up. And then coming to the West, Bob Marley, if you know the musician, he always, my daughter always laughed that, oh, my mom is a Bob Marley fan. But to me, he was truly a yogi, which kind of, when I heard about this yoga and consciousness, that's when I thought, how beautiful is that? He said once, that some people are so poor, all they have is money. And I thought this was so powerful. And I'd heard Sudha, I'm trying to think of her last name, the one who's Infosys um, co-owner. Sudha, what's her last name?
Murthy?
Yes, I had heard once, that she was invited to one of the richest people's house in Mumbai, and they had all these silver plates, and everything was like everything you look and it's all glitters and everything. But she said, I thought they were so poor because there was not a single book that she saw anywhere. And she said, to me, the true wealth is, that knowledge that comes from the book. So that's when, you start questioning that what is really, when you realize that when you connected to all of that, you realize the true abundance. You want a wealth, an abundance that is lasting, right? If you have just the money, that resource is going to be over. You're going to have to keep working and working and working and saving, like a linear growth. You make this much, you save this much, you make this much, you save. And then you're restricted with everything. Oh, I can only give this much. I can only donate so much. I can only use this much. Donation comes much later than usefulness, right? We're finishing our needs, and our needs are no more just having a one-bedroom home or two meals. Our need have become, we have five-bedroom homes, and we have this much, and we have this much. So again, the need is based on our desires, correct? So that's when I thought, we once you evolve the connection of, science of consciousness, then you realize you at least when that awareness comes, you're in the right path. I hope I'm making some sense and taking you. I just have one very good point to make at the end is that, consciousness motivates us to seek more in life, right? When you're evolved, when you have a guru and when you start understanding, like for example, when I did Patanjali Sutras, I thought, wow, wow, this is so amazing, right? So when you do meditation, then you do daily meditation, then you want to do for long meditation. Why? Because you started enjoying being in that bliss of really who you are. You drop all of that stress, all those stress hormones turn into happy hormones. The anandamides start flowing. You become, away from so much more than Panchabhuta Sharira, right? So it seeks us to, keep rising and keep following, right? That's where you see the energies shifted, right? Nothing bothers you anymore. And in yoga, this support, how does yoga relate to all this, right? So you realize that in yoga, everything is supported by dharma, right? We say right action, right dharma. What does Sanskrit mean? What does dharma really mean? It means to uphold, to support, right? So if you are in that dharma, if you are one with your breath, if you are your body, mind, and spirit together, automatically you are in the right path, correct? So abundance will follow because it's just like a cycle. Once you're out of your dharma, then you experience lack. Then all the fears, anxiety, selfishness, mine and yours comes. That separateness comes. But once you're in dharma, automatically everything is aligned. So without this, and then once you're in dharma, your consciousness truly just moves you and helps you and supports you. So the abundance starts flowing automatically. everything that you desire. Because once you're in Dharma, you're in that oneness, you're in that, if you're in the, understand the science of consciousness, once you are that consciousness and in Dharma, that's it. Only those two things are needed to flow that abundance. If you think about the money, whoever invented money, what does it really do? What is this concept of money that came years back? This exploded this idea, right? And it's still flourishing. Now we are going with different economies, we are going with digital money now, right? Bitcoins, you name it, the stocks and even the gold, people buy stocks. It's no more the physical gold. So you realize why the human society does this. So it does four things to us, it gives you the reward, it has a value, it has the need and exchange. So just pause and think about it, okay? When you personally need money, you'll see that all these four things are present in your life. For example, you put, like your salary that you're getting, right? And then depending on you value your own self on salary, and then that's why it becomes a self-esteem for somebody. For example, somebody who's a doctor makes more money and somebody who's a waiter makes less money, correct? But then you start becoming, it becomes an esteem. So that's why when doctors retire, when that white coat goes away, then they feel depressed. Why? Because they were living in that ego consciousness, that esteem, that I am doctor, I am this. Not really. It's just a profession that you're doing. That's not who really you are. But that is where the world is gone. But once you realize that that doctor goes to the restaurant and that waiter brings you that hot food with the money that you're giving, and you eat and you enjoy, and then you get that emotional payoff. Wow, I ate in that five-star hotel today, and you feel so great about it. But you think about it, if that waiter did not serve you the food that you wanted, you wouldn't have got any reward for your money. So if the waiter starts feeling this way, that I am the consciousness, I'm not, this is the work that I have been given. And once you feel that way, then you're going to be empowered, because work is just what we do. It's not really who we are. And that is why it is important to understand in terms of frequency, vibration, and the consciousness that we are. So once you are that consciousness, and if that waiter is a daily meditator and a yogi and understands the power of who really he is and what he's been assigned to do, then he's not going to value his salary check to really who it is. So I thought, and say, for example, reward, as I said, right? So we understand the value and the, say somebody's, it's a birthday and you put a money in somebody's envelope. Yes, they did not ask for it, but they feel they got reward, right? Depending on how much money you give. If you give 50 rupees to $100, then they feel rewarded accordingly. Like, for example, our bonuses, that we give. So reward, the money slipped into, so these are all, if you look in even in your daily life, you'll realize that all these things are present behind that money. So that's why the salary we earn, expresses the value of your work, right? And that becomes the self-esteem. So that's when, if anybody keeps up with what's going on in the world, they said the AI will do so much when the robots come, when the humanoids come. People will have trouble, because if they're relating their profession with who they are, then they're going to have no meaning in their life. So that is why this is the best time to be in this path, because we are experiencing something magical ahead once we realize that we are that consciousness and we can create anything. We are that abundance. And the other fourth one, so we talked about reward, value, benefit, exchange, the need part of it. So we live in a service economy that exists, For example, when you need a doctor, when you need, your tires changed, or when you need your hair cut, or when you need your grass cut, we all have to give the money, right? That is part of the need. And again, we talked about it, that our need has become flat screen TVs. We now, if we have a boat, we want to have a plane, and we have a plane, we want to have an island, and so forth. So again, that is why we realize, and it's nothing wrong again. If that is the ambition you have, it is aligned for a higher purpose, it is aligned for the betterment of a humanity, why not again? If that's what you truly desire, if that's what your consciousness desires, why not? But again, when you're in Dharma, you remember that, it'll always um, come in abundance, the support. Um, the exchange, we talked about it. For example, I sell my car and I want to buy this home, but the home value is different than my car value. So that's when we make the exchange of the money, right? That I have this much money, but I give you more in exchange of buying that home. So that's the same thing, all of these ideas and many more are around the money, as we talked about, right? So money can't be sorted out from this tangle of good and bad choices, because it is tied everything, the need, the value, reward, and exchange, right? So it is more than just the coin of consciousness. You once you realize, you gain and then you spend. You gain and then you spend, right? And so is such as the joy you experience of love, experience of joy, friendship, family, work, opportunity, success, any setbacks, everything, and money is always somewhere in the mix, correct? Because, my daughter says, Mom, people, if they have money and they're sad, they don't know where to spend, right? Because that is the consciousness the child is in. But yoga sees this as consciousness. It gives your mind thoughts, feelings, inspirations. We value love, joy, compassion. The closer you are to silent wellspring of consciousness inside, the more you will receive, because um, by keeping the focus on self, we are not merely just the primates, like right from how we evolved through other animals. Once we realize that we are the expansion of infinite pure consciousness, we exist to fulfill any creative possibility. There is no value judgments in yoga, right? It is the science of consciousness, not a moral rules. Desires are equal and instant born in our awareness. That is why it is important to be aware of who really we are. Once we realize this yoga, the union, it starts with body, mind, and spirit. And one, we are one with that breath and we become that consciousness. All desires become equal and instant. They're born in our awareness of who really we are. The kind of desire that is good for us. But again, it is our personal responsibility. That's why when how Patanjali's made 8 steps that, you first do the right conduct, truth, love, violence, then, you let go of all the negative values, when you're living below the belly button energy centers, that's when you become the consumer. But once you start rising your energies and think with that oneness and realize the power of your thoughts, your words, power of daily meditation, and power of really who you are. It keeps reminding you to be in that consciousness, which is once you connect to that field, you become that abundance yourself. So everything that you ever desire will flow abundantly.